everybody. This is Kai Pacha with the weekly Paleo Report, and this report is for March 18th of the year 2020. As you can see here, I am sharing my screen. It says March 18th right over there in the corner, and I want to say you can see here, obviously and clearly, that right now the moon is sandwiched in between Pluto and Saturn at 25 degrees of Capricorn. She will be moving into Aquarius a little later today. Here we go. Boom. By tomorrow, she's at 8 degrees. So I want to go just a little bit forward here, because what you can see here is this. It's called a stellium when you've got more than 3 planets together in the same sign in conjunction. This is the most intense week, most probably, of the entire year, as you can see, with Mars at 21, Jupiter at 22, Pluto 24, Moon 25, Saturn 29. As I'm doing this report right now, this is a particularly intense period. Pluto rules pandemics, okay? It is also the ruler of death. It is the force of evolution that requires change and transformation through dealing with forces beyond our control. Jupiter is the principle of expansion. And so Jupiter coming around into this Pluto conjunction, Jupiter goes around every 12 years. So you may go back 12 years to 2008, okay? And now Jupiter is back again, okay? Just taking Pluto and expanding it, bigger, more Pluto, more death, more transformation, more evolution. And this is all, of course, occurring in the sign of Capricorn. And so it just the moon spends 2.5 days in a sign. So these past couple of days, Monday, Tuesday, and today, Wednesday, have been extremely traumatic, particularly for the stock market. We had the stock market crash, okay, when the moon entered Capricorn. And of course, we had a stock market crash when Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008. Anyway, so this is physical, financial security. It is governments. It is corporations. It is power, external authority figures that make laws, rules, boundaries. It's the governments. Yeah, it's Trump and everybody else that's trying to contain. Saturn and Capricorn have to do with boundaries. Anyway, I don't want to get into the whole Paleo report. I wanted to give you some timing here. Like most people are going to say, when is this over? We know here in Costa Rica, they closed the airports until April 12th. Very interesting. That is Easter Sunday. And let's look at it. What we can say is Mars is the sword that cuts, initiation, charge, the warrior. It is anger. It is fighting. It is scalpels, machetes, okay, initiation. So Mars is coming around here, as you can see. As the moon moves, Mars moves. Mars comes into exact conjunction with Jupiter right there, okay? Thursday, Friday, Jupiter, Mars, and then, within a couple of degrees, we can see that by Monday, we have Mars has passed Pluto. So we have this Mars, Jupiter, Pluto. I talked about it a little bit last week in last week's report with Saturn. But you can see Saturn just went into Aquarius. So this, to me, also marks a transition, a change. Here we are. Saturn moves into Aquarius, out of Capricorn after like 3 years. It will go retrograde, as we will see. But anyway, so Saturn moves into Aquarius. Air coming out of the earth into the air. Okay, that is going to, things will begin to lighten up a little bit, but still Mars conjunct Pluto is wars, death, endings, cut, separation, stop, be fired. Okay, this is still wreaking havoc here until we can say that, Mars is going to leave Capricorn. Okay, and that is not really until the 31st. And no sooner does it leave Capricorn than it hits Saturn. Okay, boundaries, laws, rules, separation, cold, hard, concrete. Saturn, time, consequences, Lord of Karma. Mars is just heavy. And you can see these red lines going down here. Okay. They're going not only to Lilith, but we can also see them going to Uranus. Uranus in the sign of Taurus for from 2020 to 2026, 2019 to 2026. And I've talked about Uranus and Taurus. I don't want this to take all day, so I'm just going to speed this up a little bit and just say, okay, so that square, Uranus's sudden, unexpected, extreme conditions, upsets with Taurus is money, banks, health, resources, food. Okay, we're really going to have, it's, you know, by April 10th, okay, Mars is pretty well done, pretty much done, okay? We can say by Easter, okay, let's say by Easter, April 12th, Sunday, April 12th, Mars is done with its square and Jupiter is, you know, over its conjunction with Pluto, and there is going to be a little bit of a lightening up. So hang in there. This is like 3 more weeks, okay, of very powerful, deep, intense activities going on and transformation. I'll talk about it more when I go to the camera. However, let's just not think that it is over, okay? Because what we want to do is continue moving these planets, right? And we can see the sun comes around to Uranus over here in late April. But particularly what we want to look at is when these planets go retrograde. You can see that Pluto goes retrograde on April 27th. It is followed by Saturn going retrograde on May 12th. Oops, stop that sucker. And Jupiter going retrograde on May 15th. So now these are all going retrograde. They're going backwards. Okay, it's an optical illusion. They're not really going backwards, but from our perspective on planet Earth, they are going backwards all through the summer. I'm going to talk about that retrograde phase. And then they don't really go direct until September. Okay. And as you can see, there's a second. Jupiter comes back and hits Pluto again. Okay. And Saturn returns very close. Okay. You know, within a couple of degrees of Pluto, we can say that that too is a conjunction. Okay, and this is still going on. Here we go. Now we're into September. Jupiter goes direct, and shortly thereafter, Saturn goes direct by October 2nd. And now we have the third pass. And this third pass is the closure, the conclusion. Okay, things are opened up at the beginning. They're being opened up February, March, and April. And then there is the retrograde, the receding, like I talked about in last week's Pele report. And then towards the end of the year, as you can see in October, we have this whole situation with Jupiter coming back for the final pass. Boom. In November, just in time for the elections. And then we have Jupiter moving along. It's really not until, okay, January. I mean, things grow intense. Here, Jupiter travels together with Saturn right on through Christmas, okay? And it's not really until January, I would say, because why? Look at here. Mars coming around, you know, to Uranus. Mars actually does a whole retrograde. I didn't focus on it, but Mars does a whole retrograde journey. Okay, from it goes, it is in Aries. Okay, in the sign of Aries from, what was that? You know, June 28th, Mars goes into Aries and it stays there until January 7th of 2021. 6 months of the warrior in the sign of the warrior, squaring the Capricorn sign of the boss. Okay, we can go on about this way longer than a Pele report, but you know what I will say, this whole retrograde Mars moving through here is going to be squaring all these 3, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto conjunction. And I don't really see things lightening up very, very, very much until, you know, Saturn squares Uranus. You can see Saturn here is at 5, Uranus is at 6. Okay, it's not really until February 16th to the 23rd. Saturn is in square to Uranus. And after that, I would say, okay, things after that aspect begins to separate. We will begin to see some light and a new beginning. So fasten your seatbelts. This is an entire year of deep transformation. I said last year, 2020, people asked me, what is the motto for 2020? I said, it is the year of, transformation from death to resurrection. I'm sorry to have been as accurate as that, but this is what it is turning out to be. Let me come and look more at the camera, get rid of the chart, and share with you a little bit about what all this planetary stuff means. Okay, great. All right, everybody. Well, once again, this could be a long paleo report. I should make like a separate whole thing on this coronavirus, because I'm not really, can't say that I have all the pieces together and put together, but when we combine astrology with anthroposophy was started by Rudolf Steiner, a clairvoyant that lived in the early 1900s. I'm going to be quoting him a little later on today. He was one of the most amazing people that ever lived on planet Earth, in my opinion. I've studied anthroposophy since the late 80s, and it's got a lot to say, because what I want to go into is this coronavirus. There are basically 3 different explanations for this virus and for other viruses, pandemics. Number 1, they come from animals. They come from bats, or they come from camels, or they come from and they somehow get transferred into the human population, and then they are contagiously spread. Number 1, this started in Wuhan at a market where they sell live animals. So this is the mainstream media source of the coronavirus, right? Number 2, is the other conspiracy theory, that there is also a level 4 bioterrorism laboratory that is within a couple of miles of that market, where they have been working on bioterrorism and viruses and different things that are killer, and the virus escaped from the laboratory. So this is number 2, right? And the third one, number 3, that I want to talk to you a little bit more about today, is that it has to do with Wuhan being the first smart city on the planet, the first city to go 5G all the way. And I have a number of videos I've watched about this, but I want to share one. I'm going to upload one in particular by a Dr. Thomas Cohen, and he's also an anthroposophist, and he speaks about previous pandemics and the Spanish flu, okay, in 1918, followed, okay, the start of the use of electricity. And the next pandemic, okay, that happened, it was after World War II, okay, it had to do with radar. It's almost like they've done some studies. There's a book that he mentions and that I want to be reading here, where then when there is a change in the electromagnetic field of planet Earth, 6 months later, there is a shift and a change, and a virus, pandemic, different different pandemics emerge. The flu, is this virus. Rudolf Steiner said that viruses are actually excretions from toxic cells, that they're not just floating around on Earth. It's when our cells are poisoned
that we excrete these viruses and they emerge out of, okay, and he talks about, you know, them popping up at different places on the planet back in the early 1900s, before, you know, commercial airlines. So, you know, this is just a situation where there are now 20,000 satellites beaming. Okay, 5G is a change in the electromagnetic field of our planet, and it began about 6 months ago, and now we are having this pandemic. I want to associate, okay, and I talked about this before, Uranus going into Taurus. You know, the video that I did, the state of the planet address back in January, you know, I talked about creating a community with a 5G bubble. I mean, you can look all over about the health impacts of 5G. And of course, what, you know, I mean, I got my EMF detector. You gotta get one of these, baby. Start checking out what you're doing, where you're living, you know, how much comes out of your phone and your computer and this, that, and the other thing. Because I'm telling you right now that this is, you know, I talk about the magnetic field, Kundalini Yoga. Okay, you know, it's like our brain has, you know, a magnetic field, electromagnetic. You know, we are electromagnetic beings. We have a nervous system, that sends electrical impulses. Okay, you know, this is animals. It's not just humans. So there can be a link between the animals and the humans, but one way or the other, life. Let's just say life is threatened by changes in the electromagnetic field of our planet, of our ecosystem. That we are all, that everything is connected. Everything is connected to everything else. And you can't go messing with this particular, you know, part of the biosphere and not expect consequences in other parts of the biosphere. You know, this is so astrological, and it's so, I don't know. In a way, it's kind of common sense. You just look at the food chain and how everything is interdependent upon everything else on our planet. And so, you know, what we really want to look at here, all right, is that, you know, this is life-threatening. We are moving into the age of Aquarius, and I've talked about, you know, for like a couple of years, the end of the, you know, patriarchy, male-dominated, conquering nature, okay, self-interest, power, conquering, grabbing, greed, more money, more land, more property, more Facebook likes, more YouTube subscribers, just like more. This is the birth of narcissism. Maybe not the birth of it, but I've also been listening to Carolyn Myss, and you want to go to, what is it, SoundsTrue.com. They did a whole thing on narcissism. And we have narcissism and empath. The narcissist and the empath. We could in some ways say overly masculine, overly feminine. There's healthy narcissism. Okay, we need to have self-interest and self-care. And I need to survive, so give me that food. Okay, or we go hunting, or we go farming. Okay, I mean, it's just, you know, if you're vegan, you know, you go picking. Maybe you just pick the things off the trees. Anyway, you see what I'm saying? There's healthy narcissism, and there's, you know, and there's too much narcissism is too much, and too much empath, okay, is, you know, victim and martyrdom. Okay, but the balance between the two is very vital. This is the yin-yang, right? The extrovert, the introvert. Okay, conquer, charge, expand my reality, and I am super great and super powerful, okay? The three aspects of the narcissist. I wrote them down, right? Exaggerated sense of self-importance, excessive need for admiration, and a lack of empathy towards others. This has been growing. Carolyn Myss is talking about it ever since the atomic bomb, ever since nuclear fission back in the 60s. the me generation. This has been growing and expanding and expanding and growing. It's basically a population where people are becoming more selfish, more self-centered, more self-important. We can see this as a huge evolutionary wave. And I want to talk about the astrology. In the 60s, Uranus, which is electricity, okay, and individualization, all right, was conjunct Pluto in Virgo in the 60s, and we just had Uranus square Pluto. Now Uranus is in Taurus, but we'll talk about this huge wave. I've talked about the evolutionary stages before. I think I have some, courses on my website about the evolutionary stages with evolutionary astrology. And one of those stages is coming out of the consensus, where we rely on external authority, into the individuated Uranus. I become my own authority. I rebel against external binding laws and contracts, and it's so. And I start developing my own talent, my own capacity, my own identity, my own laws, my own rules. It's a little anarchy, okay, but it's very self-oriented. And we go out and we develop, and this is part of our evolutionary process. And I feel like as a collective, we are now, and this is Uranus rules Aquarius. We're coming into this age of Aquarius for the next 2,000 years. We're going to be dealing with narcissists, and extreme narcissists are sociopaths. And what we can find out is that many of the rulers of our corporations, of our governments, of our religions, of our educational institutions are what? Narcissistic. This is what, this is what makes for ambition. And I have to, in order to, lead or take over or conquer or make billions of dollars, I need to feel, like I am something special, something unique, something else, whatever. Right? The shadow of Aquarius is arrogance, okay? And it's cold. I call it outer space. It's fixed air. So the shadow side of this age of Aquarius is ice cold technology that is not human, that is robots, that is just, there's no heart space. And so what we want to understand is that, as spiritual human beings, we want to embody, okay, and not forget about empathy. Not forget, this is the reemergence and the need for the feminine at this time. And not an angry, revengeful, but, a human, loving, warm heart space. And I tell you, this is this is one of the upsides, and this is where my mantra comes from, for this week, is facing death. Facing death brings us into our vulnerability. It brings us into our mortality. It brings us into our temporary existence. And it brings us out of this, the future and technology, and it brings us out of the periphery. Capricorn has to do with business, the external world, my persona, my mask, the role that I play out in the world. We know that Pluto, the South Node, everything is up there in Capricorn. There's a lot going on, okay, in the world of business and finance and, people seeking security through material forms. The North Node, which is our future soul. Evolution, the Pluto polarity point is Cancer. And I talked about this. I have been talking about this. It's been there for a year and a half. It doesn't go into Gemini until May 5th. Okay, it's like something, this is coming home to family, coming home to humanness, coming home to feeling. And it's when you start facing your death. I mean, I felt, these last couple of nights, I just really had this download. if I caught the virus, if I died, if I got pneumonia, who do I, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be around? My children, my family, my buddies, my closest friends. Cancer and family, this is like, I'm not looking for, money and fame and fortune and business success and ambition and everything out there. It's like the older you get, the more frail, the more dainty, the more sick, the more vulnerable, the more you start really looking for those that are emotionally binding to you, your loved ones. Men, women, children, dogs, kitties, it's just like, I want to be cuddled and I want to be surrounded with nurturing, caring, loving, human people. And all the money doesn't make any difference anymore. And the fame and the future doesn't make any difference anymore when maybe that future gets shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. And we stop looking so far away and so far out and so far beyond, and we start looking at our own house, home, garden, physical body, right? So this is the evolution now. I want to read this quote from Rudolf Steiner, and it's from Thomas Cohen. It's on the video that I'm going to put up there, but it's just so powerful, because he said this back in 1917, 1918. Okay, this is a quote from Rudolf Steiner. In times when there were no electrical currents, when the air was not swarming with electrical influences, it was easier to be human. In order to be human at all today, this is the early 1900s, okay? It is necessary to expend much stronger spiritual capacities than was necessary a century ago. Can you imagine the strength of our spiritual capacities just in order to remain human that is required of us at these times when we are being assaulted by 5G? And not only 5G, we can say 4G, 3G, 2G, the Internet of Things, all the appliances, the waves, the air waves, okay, are just like whoosh. This is the focus on meditation. This is the focus on Kundalini yoga. I mean, I've wanted to like hold community and even virtual space, virtual groups. But I'm a little socked over here. I'm still doing readings. Oh, I wanted to mention if you signed up, if you got on the mailing list for my readings anytime over the last year and I have not gotten back to you, it's because when I upgraded the website a year ago, it got disconnected. So all the people that signed up for readings over the last year were going on a mailing list. That mailing list has disappeared. So I don't have a waiting list anymore. I'm free. Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to say, if you've been wondering if I've disappeared or not, no, I am still doing readings, but you have to go back to the website and sign up again. I'm sorry about that. Okay. That being said, what I want to just say that I'm pretty busy right now, but I just was with Deva Pramel and Miten. They are go to their Facebook page. They're doing regular daily meditations with song and chanting. Okay, I saw another one by Snatam Kaur. Okay, she's doing regular meditations online. I just posted Bobby Klein. He's doing these regular meditations online. I think there's a lot of people building online community and helping us to, in isolation, this is such a beautiful time for us to go inward and to build our spiritual practice, and as well as, our diets and nutrition and, really staying healthy physically. We want to be there emotionally, in a heart space, mentally, and spiritually. So, just staying with, today's mantra. When I live today like there is no tomorrow, I give thanks for the love I have shared with the other. It really comes down to love. And when our politicians are making business decisions, it's living in a state of denial, living in a state of avoidance. Why? Because it'll affect the stock market. Because it will affect the money. Because it will affect the flow. It's the descent into materialism that is the cause of so much of this disharmony. And this is the existential crisis that humanity will be facing over the next 100 years or so as we transition into this Aquarian age. Are we going to let people die? Or are we going to care for each other, love each other, slow down, this charge into the future, and check the health effects, check the mental, the psychological, the opioid, the drugs, whatever, check how, and really move into the future responsibly. Capricorn is about responsibility, and we need to be taking responsibility for the old people. We need to be taking responsibility for each other. We need to be taking responsibility for ourselves. And of course, the Great Mother. So when we put profit above life, above the environment, above everything else, to the point of lying, hiding, or denying, this is what has brought on to me, my understanding, from a spiritual perspective. This is a major reset. This is a major adjustment, helping us get back to the human nature, our human qualities, and to go forward as a family to create future community. And it's a sad thing that death and panic and crashing, economies are necessary to wake us up to this need to stay in our heart space. Enough said. When I live today like there is no tomorrow, I give thanks for the love I have shared with the other. May you share the love. Namaste. Aloha. So much love.